in the 4th grade. This year it's significant, and we did track the amount of food that we've donated to the Caroline County Department of Social Services Food Pantry. And this year we donated 3¼ tons of food. We continue to provide our Farm for a Day program, and this is where children learn about farming in an interactive experience. They actually visit the garden, harvest vegetables, they learn about caring for animals that help contribute to the food chain. They see food demonstrations and have taste testing to understand the farm-to-table concept. And this is usually attended by about 50 students, and it's a really well-received program that we do. And then, of course, we have our annual Fall Fun Festival event the last Saturday in October. And you can see that green thing on the right-hand side. That was the winner of the Tailgate Trick-or-Treat event that we had. We were lucky in 2013 that we saw further fairground site development. We added 2 new buildings, again built with volunteer labor. They were the Kenneth Hayes building that was funded by a donation from Ms. Edith Hayes in memory of her husband, and then a donation also by Doris Drury. She's called the Iced Tea Lady, and she is a fair vendor who likes our fair so much that she wanted to be a part of it. And so this building is housing office space. We use it for communication hub, as well as one area is for concessions that Ms. Drury uses when she visits our fair. The other building was the Sally Wright building, again a building that was made possible by contributions from her children, and this was a much needed building for our cooking and food sales activities. And want to point out again that signage for our buildings was donated by this Cobb Sign Company from Burlington, North Carolina. And they have been very supportive to us since we have been developing our fairground home, and have donated greater than $30,000 worth of signs that we have, the one on the road at Route 1 as well as those on the buildings within our fairground site. I do want to report, unfortunately, that Mr. Spiegel, the owner of this company, passed away suddenly the past month. So, but he was very committed to the rural way of life. He grew up in rural North Carolina, and he just kind of adopted us, and he just sort of liked to donate stuff to us. So we were very fortunate. Again, other things we've done in 2013 is we worked on some infrastructure. We're always working on that, and we installed additional transformers, light poles, and water hydrants. And on our fairground site in the Ag Pavilion saw us renovating that building and upgrading interior lighting, and that was what was used for the annual Poultry Breeders Show that was held last month in November. The L.J. Moyer buildings, which is called the L.J. Moyer building in Shirley Flagg area, we had to, we saw HVAC work being completed. Our Carlson Pavilion, we installed the heat pump and a walk-in box. And the Harold Hayes Hillcrest Gate, and that's the building that kind of greets you as you come to the fairground home, and we added our ticket sales area and did some improvements on the interior site. At this point in time, we have greater than 30,000 square feet under roof at the Caroline County Ag Fairground home. Certainly our showcase event each year is our annual fair, which you generously donate $12,000 to us this past year to help us put on this event. It was successful in July. We did have some rain. Our attendance suffered a little bit, but it was still a great fair. We still had just under 8,000 people in attendance. Again, it doesn't matter how many people attend. We use over 9,000 hours worth of volunteer work by both trustees, members, and volunteers to put on this event. We had continued youth participation in our competitions, and then we continued to provide educational exhibits that are ag-related and heritage-related. And you can kind of see this is a glimpse of the many people who attended the fair, as well as the various activities that we had during that week. One of the heritage exhibits that we showcased in 2013 is we kind of drew on the 75th anniversary of Rural Electric Cooperative, primarily REC, and this was important to us because our fairground home, as you remember, is located on one of the first farms in the nation to receive electricity. So that was very important. So we thought that would be important to showcase that, as well as we wanted to showcase how electricity affected the home, the life of the homemaker on the farm. So we have one of our members who helps us each year pull this activity together and getting our exhibits going, and we appreciate that. And people seem to enjoy the memorabilia that we exhibit and everything, and they kind of have these reminiscing experiences when they come to our fairground and see these heritage exhibits. I want to point out importantly that we have received some recognition on the county, state, and national levels. Of course, in Caroline, we were voted the best event in Caroline, as well as best of the best. It's in that best of the best publication from the Progress, and we were called the best place to take your kids and the best day trip. So we are very excited that people thought that much about the activities that we provide here in the county. Our fair manager, Mac Wright Jr., was named Fair Person of the Year and also joined the board as director for the Virginia Association. So we felt that was very important. We're now out there on the state level receiving recognition and kind of getting into networking as well. We continue to participate in the communication awards, and we did win for our size fair, which it goes by the attendance, and we are in that middle attendance group, and we won, as you can see, some places with our magazine and brochure, our poster, tabloid, newspaper ad won prizes, as well as our advertising merchandise. It's also important to note that we are a member of the International Association of Fairs and Expositions, and this year we chose to participate in the Dream Big program, which is how do the fairs contribute to food for the hungry in the nation. And that's, we tracked the food and we donated the 3¼ tons of food to Social Service Pantry, and we did report that to the IFE. Next steps, of course, we have continued community and business support. It's just phenomenal in Caroline County how much support that our little group receives, and there still is enthusiasm for what we're doing out there on County Fair Lane. But without the individuals and businesses, and of course by the support here of the Board of Supervisors, we wouldn't be able to do any of the things that we do and that enable us to have a successful fair and other events at our fairground. But we've also, because we have an attractive venue, we continue to attract some events to the county, and one of those is the Delmarva Gaff and Go Rodeo, and this in 2014, that's going to be the 3rd year that they're going to be out at our fairground home, and we're excited about that. And as I said earlier, the Virginia Poultry Breeders Association, they are going to be at least with us the next decade with their annual meeting and shows, perhaps longer than that. But they are very excited to have this. It's just the right kind of venue that they need and to have. And I want to point out, when this group comes, we're seeing anywhere from 800 to 1,000 chickens and various sundry types of poultry are out there. So it's a very big event. People come from multiple states. And they do stay, have housing needs and everything here in the county when they come for that event. And then we've been used by the District Boy Scouts of America. They find it to be a nice event for their camporees that they have. And so we've had several camporees at our fairground, as well as private events as well. We can rent our property out. We've had some reunions, weddings, and receptions there. People who want that type of kind of a rustic environment seek out that for those types of activities. Of course, we're already soliciting sponsors for our 2014 fair, which is going to be July 9th through 12th, 2014. We hope it's going to be a sunny week, but we don't care. It's always a great fair. We have great support from the county, from other areas, people that come to see us. We just enjoy it a lot, all the volunteers that we have that come out, and that's basically what I have here. But again, appreciate the support that we've had from the County Board of Supervisors, not only for our annual fair, but you also support our Fall Fun Festival the last Saturday in October, and it's certainly important to us, and we appreciate that. And we hope that you appreciate the fact that we are bringing quality activities to the county and bringing people into the county and showcasing Caroline. And I want to point out and first thank Ms. Sylvia Tate, who puts this PowerPoint presentation together each year. And then I have several fair people here. I'd like for them to stand and be recognized.
Would you like to introduce them?
I certainly can. In the front row, I have Ms. Linda Tate, and she's been doing a lot of our publicity this year, the past year or two. And beside her is Ms. Ann Tate, and Ms. Tate's the lady behind giving us our fairground home, which is very central. We wouldn't be doing all the things we're doing without our permanent home. Behind her, we have Herbert Tate. He's our deputy fair manager, and Sylvia Tate, who helps do, again, publicity and the PowerPoint. We have Whit Coleman Jr. He's one of our trustees, as well as Jackie Rosa Markle. She works a lot on our publicity as well. And then behind we have Audie Hayes and Marcia Hayes. And Marcia is our treasurer, and Audie is also a trustee on our board, as well as Herbert's a trustee as well. So that's our group. If they'd like to stand, you want to stand? Come on. So they're a very supportive group. We have so that's basically it, unless you have some questions for me. And just think about us when you do your, your little budget.
Well, we will, and $12,000 is not a lot of money for the return we get, so it's a pretty good investment.
Thank you so much for saying that, Mr. Thomas. I'll remind Mr. Akers of that.
Are there any, don't worry, I will too. Are there any other questions for the fair, Mrs. Whitaker?
Mr. Chairman, I only just have one comment to the Tate family. Certainly, we are happy. It just shows you what our community is really made of. The fact that community takes, and we should take lead from the community in terms of giving back. So we certainly say thank you. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
They did all that when they were in the Mattapanai district, though.
Exactly. Exactly. Remind him. Yes. Yes. That's true.
Any other questions? Any other?
No more comments, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Okay. Whitaker, as always, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Tate, we again acknowledge your gift to the county, what it means to State Fair. I don't know if you want us to call you the mother of the county fair, but you've been the big benefit, so we do appreciate what you've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Whitaker, we appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas, too. Mr. James, it's time for the 2014 VACO Region 7 Legislative Report. And how are you, sir?
Just fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, it's good to be with you again. This annual event just about more or less 30 days before the General Assembly convenes. And, you know, I'll just let y'all make the jokes, whatever one you want to make at that point. I'll leave it alone since I'm on camera. You have before you the proposed regional platform that was worked out over the last many months with input from across the area, which includes the jurisdictions in this planning district and the jurisdictions in Planning District 9 to the west. This is very similar to the platform that we reviewed this time last year. I'm going to highlight a couple of differences. Under the Comprehensive Services Act, we're working with a number of other groups, including the League of Social Service Executives and with Virginia Municipal League and Virginia Association of Counties. We're asking the Assembly to, for the first time, bring the State Executive Council and its policy-making procedures under the Administrative Process Act. They've been exempt since the program was created back in 1992, and that causes some problems for local government, and we've had to battle with them over the years that they allow us time for appropriate comment when they propose changes in policies, especially when they're talking about changes in how the state share of the program is paid for. And as we all know, there are two paying partners, the state and the localities. And so when the state changes its deal, it has a direct and immediate impact on your share. The program was exempted back in 1992 when we set up in Virginia this uniquely Virginia program because we needed to suspend, if you will, the Administrative Process Act to get that program up and running. And over the years, as local governments have proposed that it's time to come under the program, the state has resisted it. Well, you know, the program is now over 20 years old. It's time that they abided by the same rules that most state agencies have to abide by, the Administrative Process Act. And we have Bill Patron in the Senate lined up. We're still working on the House Patron. We know the bills have been drafted, drafting requests are in. So we've got some support already early on in the legislature. The transportation program really that we've recommended here is the same as last year with one addition. And you mentioned the revenue sharing program earlier. It was mentioned that there was about 180 some million that was put in. It was funded at a $150 million level. They were able to bump it up a little bit, but it's authorized for $200 million. And so the platform here, we're encouraging the state to fully allocate that authorization that's called for under state law. Go for the full $200 million because of exactly the reasons we heard stated earlier of the leveraging effect. You have also pretty much the same position that we've taken on Chesapeake Bay that we have taken in the past. We have, however, added a whole section on stormwater management. Mr. Black, who is a member of the Rappahannock River Basin Commission, knows that the Commission, with its technical committee, has been working for about the last 6 months to identify legislative proposals that would help in the ease of implementation of the stormwater management program at the local level. We have a pretty massive undertaking statewide for all local governments to stand up a locally run program by July 1. What the technical committee of the Commission and the Commission focused on are what are some things that can be done in state law to make that easier. And the 6 proposals that you see in here are aimed at just that. The Commission, River Basin Commission, approved those back in September and been working with the legislative members of the Commission. As a matter of fact, on behalf of the Commission, I met with Legislative Services today to walk through each of these 6 items with them, and bills are being drafted on each of these items. I don't want to take you so far down into the weeds, or the wetlands, I guess would be the joke, on this unless you want to delve into any of these 6 issues. And if you ask me a question I can't answer, I'll turn to Rappahannock River Basin Commission member Black to answer the question for you. But, Mr. Chairman, I know you've got another report before you get into your public comment and your public hearings. I'll leave it to you. Do you want me to walk through those 6 items in detail, or just answer questions?
I think we've all got the
right.
VACO agenda, and some of us have worked on it. So if there are any questions, I guess that's probably the best way to handle it. Mr. Black, I'll start with you.
Can you just kind of explain to the board, I just want to, of what we did at the last Basin Commission meeting, which was earlier this past week?
Okay, on a slightly different front, but it still relates to legislative because it's a partner arrangement between some of the jurisdictions in the basin and the Commonwealth. Starting in 2011, the Commission worked with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to engage in a study of the Middle and Upper Basin, looking at some of the river and rain gauge needs. If you looked at a map of the data collection system that goes into what's called iFlows, which is the Virginia Department of Emergency Management's information gathering system so that they can give early warning to your public safety folks of flash flood hazard because of a rain event upstream. Very clear, if you looked at that map, there's a huge gap. Once you get below the Blue Ridge and you come down off the mountainside all the way to Fredericksburg, there's very little data collection points. So working with the Corps of Engineers, technical committee was put together, and over the course of a year, the Commission supported with the Corps and the Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation through some funding from the General Assembly, prioritizing where we need stream gauges and rain gauges in the Middle and Upper Basin. Now that is west of Caroline because we're down in the flatlands here, so we didn't have that same flash flood situation that you had in the Middle and Upper Basin. That study was completed last and reported to the Commission last March. The Commission turned back to the technical committee and said, okay, here's our recommendations of 14 priority sites. And here is some funding options on how to do it. Work with the state agencies involved, see if we can come back with a proposal. Ultimately, that led working in a partnership with the Department of Emergency Management of a proposal to install 13, combination of 13 stream and rain gauges to provide that early warning system that would integrate with the whole statewide iFlows system. And the proposal coming out of the commission last week was that the state put up half the money, and the 7 jurisdictions, starting with Stafford and Spotsylvania and Fredericksburg, going west, that don't have any data collection points, participate, and we'll have a request before the General Assembly for about $85,000 for the state share and the other $85,000 coming from the local governments to put that system in place, but then the State Department of Emergency Management would maintain it going forward. And it's meant to be a public safety project. It was an effort that was identified in working with the Corps back in 2011, and it has just proceeded one step at a time through the planning process and prioritization process. And so the request will be out there for the Assembly and for the 7 jurisdictions. A good, solid protection of life and property project of the Commission. I did want to mention the very last different item on the legislative platform is to ask the state to restore some of the jail funding money that had been cut a couple of years back. And we had a preliminary meeting with the Speaker of the House, who indicated he was supportive of this request and encouraged us to go forward. Okay. So if you have other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
And that was, the one you just mentioned was the share used to be $14 per day.
Went down to 12.
Commonwealth reduced it to 12.
Take it back to 14.
This is asking to take it back to 14.
Correct.
And I don't know how much the county itself was losing, but I'm sure there's a great deal for the entire region.
Between the various jails across the 2 PDCs, yes, sir.
More questions?
No, that's what I was looking at. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. James, we had a couple before that maybe didn't make it into the VACO final set. I know they worked on them at the conference. One was to eliminate split voting districts. I've got one. Half of the Mattaponi districts votes for the 1st congressional district, and the other half votes for the 7th.
That's been fixed. The congressional ones have been fixed. It's the state delegates that aren't fixed. Caroline's all in the first, all in the 4th senatorial. It's the House.
Right.
55th, 54th, 99th is our problem.
That's the one, because you've got Ms. Bransom represents Bowling Green and the Milford district.
Right.
But only a piece of the Milford district, because I'm in the Milford district and I vote for somebody different. So,
right.
And Port Royal.
And Port Royal's got the same thing. So,
Well,
Port Royal, 54th and 55th.
Port Royal is in the 99th, and Woodford is in the 55th.
right.
But part of it's
All of the
Okay,
Port
no,
Royal
you're right.
districts.
You're
You're good.
The fact is that we have
99
multiple House
Right,
districts
2 different.
within a single precinct, which makes it very difficult for us to hold elections, because it's just confusing to people because they don't know which one to go or which ballot to have. The other thing that was being thought of was the VACO was going to ask the state to fund the cost of the optical scanning machines, and I don't think that made it out of committee, but
I'm not familiar with that request, so I don't know.
yeah, that's why I said I don't think it made it out of committee. But it was part of the government.
General government?
Right. And that was when they were discussing. I guess it didn't make it through the whole thing, but I think that's one that's, since we've spent money, it would be nice to be reimbursed for that, if they're going to give money for that, since it was another state requirement. And that was really the only 2 that I had that I saw we didn't make. There's more, but of course we want unfunded mandates. That's always on there. Want some other things. Was that it, Mr. Akers? Did you have one?
Yeah, I think that the unfunded mandate issue has just become, hey, we're not going to talk about it anymore, because it's not going to happen.
It's like a page number.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think this year, what the thought process was, let us try, as far as VACO is concerned, let us try to hit the issues that we do feel that we have a legitimate chance at getting something done. And let's pour all of our concentration on those particular issues.
There, relative to the unfunded mandate issue, there will be legislation introduced to reinstitute the first day bill requirement for bills that have a local fiscal impact. That was on the books for a number of years. I want to say about 5 years ago, that was repealed. And the governor's unfunded mandate task force made that their number one recommendation. I know VML has put it within their platform. I think VACO has it in theirs as well. I'm expecting that legislation to be introduced. I can't predict right now where how that's going to fall out through the process, but I think there'll be some effort there.
And I think we all got emails from the chairman of the committee to that effect.
Okay, I think that's it, Mr. James. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. 7:22. Mr. Rogers, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to wait until after our break, and we'll come back to Mr. Rogers maybe right after the public hearing. Appointments. Planning Commission for Mattapanai, I'm not ready to do that. I'll do that in January, Mr. Fincham. Bay Consortium Workforce Investment Board, we're going to talk about having some business folks. And if we didn't get those, I understand. So we'll try to have those in January, just some ideas. Because it has to be a business person, is what Mr. Partners informed me. Okay. Consent agenda, A, B, we took C off, D and E. Anyone want anything removed? If not, motion to approve would be in order.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda A, B, D, and E.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Black. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. We need to do a closed meeting, which will take 5 minutes. So the closed meeting is personnel. We're going to do that right now, and we'll take, counting the 5 minutes for the closed meeting, we'll take a 15-minute break, so we should be back at 7:40 to do the public hearing, followed by Mr. Rogers. So we'll adjourn, recess until then. Under section 2.23711, A1 personnel, do I need more? Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Akers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. We're in closed meeting. We need a motion to come out of the executive session or the closed meeting that we never actually went into, so is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Black. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. There was actually no closed meeting held on the instruction of legal advice. So we're moving along to our next agenda item, which is public comment. And then I'm going to do the public hearing, and then we'll go back to Mr. Rogers and the bond hearing. So public comment at this time. Anyone who would like to come before the board and speak on any issue that is not a public hearing, feel free to do so. We will hold a public hearing on the firearms and hunting by rifles after this. So if there's anyone who would like to speak on any matter that's not a public hearing, now's your time to do so. Is there anyone who would like to speak for public comments? Anyone who would like to speak for public comments? Hearing none, we'll declare public comments to be closed. At this time, we are going to move forward to our one scheduled public hearing. Understand that there was a misunderstanding in the actual advertisement. That really doesn't matter because it was the board's intention to just hear public comment at this particular time. And we're not going to take any action, but we want to hear public comment. So our public hearing number 4, set Mr. Fincham, Mr. Parton. Mr. Parton? Thank you, sir. Mr. Parton's going to give us the overview, and again, we're going to ask for public input after Mr. Parton, and the board will discuss it some, and then we'll schedule another public hearing at some later time. Mr. Parton?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you know, what the board is considering is repealing the existing county ordinance related to hunting in favor of state law. And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do, we do have Sergeant Schuler with Game and Inland Fisheries here tonight, and if we could get him to describe what state law would look like, or what it does look like, or how it would apply to the county in the event the county does repeal its ordinance. I think it would be helpful to hear that so that we know exactly what will be in place in the event the board does repeal the county ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Parton. Sergeant?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Currently, we have a state code section that specifically states what guns, pistols, revolvers, etc. can be used to hunt with. It's 29.1-519, and basically it states, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview here, a shotgun or muzzle-loading shotgun not larger than 10 gauge. These are what you can use. An automatic or repeat or hand-operated repeating shotgun, a rifle, a muzzle-loading rifle or an air rifle, a bow and arrow, a crossbow, a pistol, a muzzle-loading pistol or a revolver. And in regards to pistols, there is a requirement that they have to meet a certain foot-pound of energy. Muzzle-loading pistols, it specifically states that you cannot use a fully automatic firearm, and then there's a provision that states that you cannot hunt with any other weapons or firearms that are not listed in this section. And what Caroline County has done is basically, Caroline's more restrictive than the state code, and it says that during any regular hunting season, during any regular hunting season, you cannot hunt with a rifle larger than .22 caliber. Okay, and then you can only hunt with a rifle larger than .22 caliber for groundhogs. So by repealing that county ordinance, the state code section would be in full force. So to give you an example, right now a deer hunter cannot hunt with a rifle during the general firearms deer season. If you were to repeal this ordinance, a deer hunter could hunt with a rifle as long as it's one of the rifles that's permitted for deer hunting. Hope that makes sense.
It does.
Okay, any questions in regards to that?
No, I think we're fine. I'm going to open up the public hearing, and we'll start citizens' comments. And Sergeant, we appreciate it. We may use you for a little clarification, if possible, at the end.
Yes, sir. I'll be here if you need.
Thank you. We will declare the public hearing to be open with regards to the county changing its ordinance to match the state, allowing hunting by rifles. When you come up, just state your name, your voting district, just for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Gary Gray from the Bowling Green voting district. And Chairman Thomas, members of the board, as a member of the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, I'm here to request you to amend the county code that basically would put Caroline County in alignment with what basically the state has already approved. My number one concern is safety, always. And I have a report here that I can pass out that was prepared by Dr. Trejos from the Department of Game. It kind of gives a safety report on the difference between hunting with rifles and shotguns.
That's Mr. Park. Thank you.
The number two concern that I have is education. And probably the biggest fear I have of moving from shotguns to rifles is most people are not really fully aware of the ballistics with rifles. Most rifle hunters are precision shooters. So They look at a target, they acquire the target, they try to make good, clean, kill, ethical shots. So from a professional hunter standpoint, the most important thing is safety, education, and ethical hunting. And there's nothing any better than making good, clean, ethical shots. Sheriff Lippa made the comment that, Corvette runs 160 miles an hour, but we don't outlaw Corvettes. We basically expect everybody to follow the law. The same thing happens with moving to rifles, that any firearm in the wrong hands is a problem. So we can't regulate the idiots. The guy that shot a pistol up in the air in Chesterfield and came down and killed somebody. I mean, there's no law you can write that prevents that kind of problem. There are lots of training courses available, NRA offers training. There's a lot of information on the internet. You can go on and learn how to operate a gun, how to shoot a gun. If there's anybody in Caroline County that would like an introduction to how to properly load, shoot, and fire a rifle, I'd be more than glad to volunteer my time to assist with that. I probably talked to well over 100 people that are excited with the opportunity to manage deer herds on large tracts of land that are being farmed. Rifles allow that to be done very efficiently and effectively that you cannot do with a shotgun today. You can do it with a muzzle loader, which is approved. So a muzzle loader is an option today, but a rifle just moves to the next level of good quality deer management. My recommendation is for any hunt club that is opposed to hunting with a rifle, for that club to restrict its membership and say, okay, we're hunting with dogs. We don't want any rifles. We think it's a safety issue, and it allows them to make that decision, which is the same thought I had with tree stands. I don't really want to force anybody to climb a tree stand, because if you fall out, that's the #1 accident that occurs in the state of Virginia while hunting, people falling from tree stands. So I'm looking at trying to get the perfect balance to manage a deer herd that we have a problem with, and also allow people to manage it with the right equipment. I got several professionals here tonight. I have Paul Atkins, who's also a game warden. I'm sure he can answer any questions. You also had a presentation from Sergeant Ryan Schuler with the Department of Game. I've got Gene Sullivan here. Gene Sullivan is the range safety officer for Fredericksburg Rod and Gun Club. So if you're a member of Fredericksburg Rod and Gun Club, before you can shoot and do anything, you have to go through a full-blown safety instruction class with him. So he's fully aware of the importance of safety in practice, just as it is in hunting.
Mr. Gray, I'm going to have to ask you to summarize, because...
Yeah, and I want to thank you for the comment of checking with the county attorney to say, if we give this a try, and there's a complication with this, then we can always change back to what we were doing. So I appreciate your forethought in that process. If you have any questions, I'll be available to answer anything you got.
We may get back to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Please state your name, your voting district.
Sure. Mike Trejos, Bowling Green voting district. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out that you may not be aware of. During when we get permits to kill excess deer in the county from the state game department, we're allowed to shoot those with rifles anytime, out of season, after hours, at dark. And I've, on many occasions, had people at our farm to help with that and use many different kinds of rifles. So you may not even be aware that that had been available. So that is legal. You can check with the game wardens also. And I've used almost every kind of gun in the world. I make muzzle loaders. I've hunted with modern high-powered guns, and I've never seen any issues with regard to safety. We have hunt clubs in districts that are much more densely populated and flat, like Caroline County. We've never had issues with that as well. But I wanted you to know that right now it's legal to use a rifle in this county to shoot deer. So I don't think that would be a change, to tell you the truth. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trejos. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Feel free to come to the podium, state your name, your voting district, and we'll allow you time.
Al Collins, Bowling Green District. Normally in another perspective, but tonight I'm here in hunting. Grew up here in Carolina, hunted my whole life here. I've always used a shotgun. In our hunt club, the landowners hunt club that I hunt in, the state law says that you do not need a plug in your shotgun. We have taken the action that we stayed with the previous law, 3 rounds in your shotgun, not 5, for safety reasons. Because if you shoot 3 times and miss the deer, the next 2 times you're going to be shooting to somebody next to you. It's a safety item all the way around. The other thing is with a rifle, you're shooting a greater distance. The facts that were presented to you for rifle versus shotgun, probably true statistics. But look at the density of the population that used the shotgun and then used the rifle. I don't think you have that. That just says incidents in the paperwork you've given. I tell you right now, I wouldn't want to be down at Winding Brook or up in Bowling Green and go out here in the middle of Route 301 with a high-powered rifle and hold it at this level and take a chance of not being hit, if I was that far away on the street. And when you're hunting in Caroline County, there are not many places you can see that far, and you're shooting at something blindly. You might be shooting in an open field when you shoot, but then you've got woods or brush, and that round can go that far, and they are powerful enough to kill someone. 22 rifle goes 1 mile. You get to the high-powered guns, they're a whole lot farther. I'm a Vietnam vet, and I can tell you how far things go when they're fired from a high-powered rifle. And from a safety point of view, we don't need it. Talking about controlling the deer population, we have shotguns, we kill our share of deer, and people still come around at night shooting at deer. It's just enforcing the law. Having a rifle is not going to help you kill any more deer than a shotgun will. Matter of fact, when you're within 70 yards, I'll take my chances with a man shooting a rifle before I would with a man shooting a shotgun with buckshot. And for safety reasons, I think that we need to stay where we are and be satisfied and enjoy the hunting and raise our youngsters to hunt as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter?
Mr. Chairman, Board, I am not a Caroline County resident. I'm Gene Sullivan. I'm Vice President of Fredericksburg Rod and Gun Club. I do hunt in Caroline County some, but only for groundhogs and things like that where I can use a rifle. I've been a competitive shooter for 45, 47 years. I'm an NRA firearms instructor, rifle, pistol. I have been hunting since I was, 9 years old. I'm 64 now. I used to be employed by Winchester Ammunition Division, Olin Matheson Chemical Corporation, in some of sales and research and development. I know ballistics. I've been, an expert witness in criminal, cases, court, felony trials. I don't think there's a safety issue here. I think I agree with Mr. Gray that rifles can be some of the most ethical way to control a deer population hunt. Also, the ordinance, the easiest thing to do would be get rid of the ordinance. And the ordinance is made available by an enabling statute by the Code of Virginia, 29.1-528, that says the governing body of any county or city may by ordinance prohibit hunting in such county or city with a shotgun loaded with slugs or with a rifle of a caliber larger than .22 rimfire. However, such ordinance may permit the hunting of groundhogs with a rifle of a caliber larger than .22 rimfire between March 1st and August 31st. And it also allows the use of muzzle-loading rifles. There are muzzle-loading rifles now that people use in competition that,
not in our area, but they have matches at Quantico. They shoot 500-600 yards, and they shoot very small groups, and they're, you know, every bit as effective as a 30-06, a 270, or whatever else. These